Anak akong mister.
And then since we were already here and my mother, who was 77 years old at that time, was running the school, so we decided, okay, since we're here and we're thinking about the little center, let's try to help the school also. So we decided that let's make it into a Central Design Institute Foundation. For the first 3 years, we were still traditional in our running of the school. But then the improvement in the learning of the students was really very small, so it was quite frustrating. Nobody passed the UPCAT, UP College Admission Test, for 3 years. So it was in 2002 where we implemented this dynamic learning program after a 3-year observation.
The parallel learning classes, this is based on what they call as the jigsaw strategy. In the original jigsaw strategy, students would move from one group to another so that they would learn a topic better. What we did was to invert this. So parallel classes where you can have 2 to 3 classes held at the same time with one expert teacher and facilitators so that no class would be left without an adult or a teacher.
The key in the dynamic learning program really is the parallel classes scheme. Because if you do parallel classes, automatically it becomes learner-centered. Because if you have, for example, a biology class, I have 3 biology classes. I hold these classes simultaneously. Now, the teacher cannot be in 3 places at the same time. So automatically, the teacher intervention in this biology class will be limited to maybe 30% of the time. So the biology teacher would lecture 15-20 minutes here, transfer to another section, lecture 15-20 minutes, and so on. So even if you don't have teachers, 80% of the time you already win, as long as there are activities designed for that particular subject.
Second component would be the activity-based learning with its daily protocol of writing, a lot of writing for the students, starting from the title to the learning targets, well-defined learning targets, and then the concept digest. So this is, they do the activities in school.
So essentially in the DLP, the work of the teacher is now shifted. The teacher does not have to lecture a lot, so by August, in the traditional, a lot of teachers have hoarse voices, but here that does not happen. But now their work is now in the assessment and evaluation of the students' work. So we also try to avoid the workbook style, because some schools, if you use the workbook style, the feedback is that after some time the students are nonchalant. They just sort of go through the module or the workbook, just keep on answering, and as long as they pass. So that's the type of behavior that's being fostered by this workbook style. But here in the writing, it's habit forming. Even the smell of the paper activity sheet already sends signals to the brain that it's learning time.
And all these activities would be filed in the student comprehensive portfolio. So that's the third component. So notebooks now are optional. What the students would have would be this comprehensive portfolio. Why comprehensive? Because it contains everything. The daily activities, the exams, quizzes. If they have small projects, they could place it there. Essays, themes, lab reports. So everything should be within the comprehensive portfolio.
The fourth one is the strategic study and rest.
They do a lot of activities in school. They are very intense with their work. Then they're tired, so no homework. There were no students now below average percentile rank. So that was a very good sign. So that's one performance indicator. The other performance indicator would be the UPCAT, number of UPCAT passers for 3 years. We wanted that as a performance indicator because they're really independent. People from UP conduct the exam. They do not delegate, and they're very strict. NCAE, as I said, really moved up. By now,
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, 45% of our seniors belong to the top 10% in the whole country. And if you look at the mathematics component of the NCAE, 51% or more than half of our seniors belong to the top 10% in the whole country in mathematics. And again, if I remember correctly, around 17 students in mathematics belong to the top 1% in the whole country.
meaning they had 99 plus or 99 percentile rank in mathematics.
DLP for the 21st century is the way to go.
What we were doing really was looking at the problem, a real world problem, using the scientific method, attacking every aspect of the problem, and realize that with this package of solutions, you could address so many problems which we realize are not really problems. But the solution entails, well, sacrifice.
The CVIF-Dynamic Learning Program, or DLP for short. For me, it seems like it was precisely designed for situations like the new normal or for times like when you have a pandemic. So, for those of you who are familiar with the CVIF-Dynamic Learning Program, or DLP, there are 4 essential components, 4 non-negotiable essential components. And the transition for these components from the old normal to the new normal is very smooth. There's virtually a seamless transition between these 4 components. That's why when the suspension of classes because of the pandemic occurred, many DLP implementing schools found a very smooth transition. So what is this parallel classes scheme in the old normal compared with the parallel home scheme in the new normal? Well, the parallel classes scheme was precisely designed such that teacher intervention is only 20% of the period. In the normal times, the parallel classes scheme would become the parallel homes scheme in the new normal. So that's the transition. The multi-domain activity-based learning remains the same. The comprehensive student portfolio remains the same. And the strategic study and rest component of the DLP also essentially remains the same. And in the new normal, the same thing would happen, because in the new normal, the parallel home scheme means that the student will only go to the school once a week. So if there are 5 school days, if the student goes only 1 day in a week, 1 day out of 5 days is roughly 20%. So he just goes to the school for teacher intervention and to get new learning activities. This format would actually satisfy the criteria that people announce in a pandemic situation. For example, they would say that you need to have physical distancing, you need to work at home or study at home, you need to wear masks. But at the same time, we want the students to maximize their learning. So all these criteria will be satisfied in the new normal with the DLP. Why is there physical distancing in the parallel home scheme? Well, you see, if only grade 7 students go to school on a Monday, they can utilize all the classrooms in the campus. So to give you a scenario, suppose there are 3 sections per grade level, 3 classrooms per grade level. Since there are 6 grade levels, junior plus senior, 3 times 6 would mean that there are 18 classrooms available in the campus. Now, if only grade 7 students go to the campus on a Monday, these 3 sections of grade 7 can utilize all the 18 classrooms. That means there could only be 10 or 15 students per classroom, such that physical distancing can be implemented. They can wear masks if they want, and the rest of the time they can work at home.
The scheduling would also be very nicely accommodated because you have grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, grade 6 for the 6 days a week. So you have Mondays, grade 1, Tuesdays, grade 2, and so on and so forth. Now for preschool and kindergarten, which actually needs much less teacher intervention for their different activities, they could in fact just go with the learning channels on TV, then we could also easily accommodate the learning of these students, preschool and kindergarten. So for elementary school, grade 1 to grade 6, and for high school, grade 7 to grade 12. Senior high school, grade 11 and grade 12. Now, suppose we have a scenario wherein nobody is allowed to go to school. President Duterte mentioned that he is hesitating and he doesn't feel comfortable with sending students to school when there is no vaccine nor treatment available yet. So in that case, suppose students are not allowed to go to school, then we could adapt the DLP to accommodate such a scenario. So students now do not even have to go to the school once a week or 1 day per week. They can stay at home. Now, in the DLP, the core feature really would be the learning activity sheets or the learning activities that the students need to accomplish. So this would now be printed and given to the students through their barangay LGU. Probably through the town, and then the town distributes to the barangay, or from the city to the barangays. The different barangay kagawads, the kagawad who would be in charge of education, would ensure that the learning activity sheets are distributed to all the households in their respective barangays. So that's in case absolutely no face-to-face contact in the classroom will be allowed. Then we could still have learning done by the students.
Now, at the national level, there could be connectivity problems, internet connectivity problems. But even internet connectivity problem could be bypassed. Remember that the teacher intervention is only 20% of the time. And so, for example, if there is a dedicated television channel for the education of the students, then on a Monday, it could be dedicated to all grade 7 subjects. So if there's 8 or 7 hours on a Monday, that would cover 7 or 8 subjects for grade 7. So that TV station would only be showing on a Monday grade 7 topics which are closely tied with the learning activities that they did the previous week. On a Tuesday, this channel would now show all grade 8, Wednesday all grade 9, and so on. On Saturday, up to Saturday, they show all the grade 12 topics on a television. Or they can even choose a YouTube channel and show it. Because every home, every Filipino home, most of them, they have a television. So it could bypass the internet connectivity problem with this type of scheduling. What is hidden in the DLP, which might not exist in the other proposals of long distance learning and video lectures and so on, is that in the many video type of lecturing, there is no guarantee that the students will be learning. I mean, if for decades the teachers have been lecturing to the students inside a classroom, and still we got those scores or performance in PISA or in TIMSS, the Trends in International Math and Science Studies, then if lecturing in the classroom failed, more so when they just lecture via the video, it can be a disaster. But that is avoided in the DLP because there's a safety net, and that safety net is that in the dynamic learning program, once the students get this set of activities good for 1 week, they will now work on that. They will copy the learning target activity title and they will answer the few questions, one activity after another. That's the safety net. So this set of activities in their own handwriting will be submitted to the teacher once a week, once it's time for their grade level to report to school. So that is the hidden, that does not appear in the other proposals. Remember that in MOOCs, the massive open online courses, only 10% of those who registered, around 10% or even less of those who registered actually finish because it does not work. But this writing and the DLP style is the safety net for the students to continue learning, and I'm almost sure that if this is done diligently, I think we will improve even in the PISA.
This has been tested. I mean, how to cope with some disasters like in Cagayan de Oro, Sendong, Typhoon Sendong, and then in Zamboanga City when there was this siege. There were schools implementing the DLP and they were able to cope with the demands of the situation. SMART has also been active in using the DLP for their alternative learning system and School in a Bag. So our partner, SMART, has experience now in coping with different situations wherein the DLP can be tapped to make sure that the students will still have good learning outcomes. And we have also made an arrangement that they would help us in spreading out the learning activity sheets prepared in our school. So at present, we are editing, consolidating, revising, and adjusting the different learning activities, since this would really be the core. We have mentioned learning activity sheets. For us, the ideal learning activity to be done by the students would need zero intervention by the teacher, which is what would make us happy during this pandemic, because definitely teacher intervention is greatly minimized. So if we are able to design, to compose, and to have these ideal learning activities, then students would, for example, learn the triangle congruence theorems without the intervention from the teacher. That is the ideal, and in fact that has already been achieved many times in our school and other schools implementing the DLP.
Even this idea of students per grade level reporting to a campus or school only once a week is also designed in such a way that just in case a student was infected with COVID, then he has 1 week at home to discover or to check whether he has acquired it or not. And then if in case he has it, then he or she does not have to report the following week. So that 1 week at home is also designed for that. The fourth component, strategic rest, I mentioned that it transitions very nicely from the old normal to the new normal, the 4 components. The strategic rest is still there because in the dynamic learning program, it's outcomes based. The students will only be assessed based on the accomplishments of the learning activities. And they have 1 week to do that. So if a student is somebody who loves to work in the morning, then he can do the activities in the morning and rest in the afternoon. If he likes to do it in the afternoon, then he rests in the morning. So it's there's still strategic rest incorporated, because there should be no homework, nothing extra aside from the learning activities. It is almost like a school which implements the DLP is immune to disasters. It has a very high immunity to disasters or even with a pandemic.